Rome, the Colosseum. The 17th day of September, 73 years after Christ. Beneath the arena floor in chambers that tourists will never see even 2,000 years later, a woman named Livia sits chained to a stone wall. She is 19 years old. 3 hours ago, she watched her two brothers die in the arena above. She heard the crowd roar as gladiators cut them down. She felt the vibrations through the stone as 50,000 Romans celebrated the destruction of her family. Her brothers were Dian nobility captured during the recent campaigns along the Danube. They were educated men who spoke Greek and Latin, who had negotiated trade agreements and hosted diplomatic dinners. They died badly. One took 7 minutes to bleed out after a trident pierced his abdomen. The others survived long enough to beg for mercy that never came. The crowd loved every second. Livia is still wearing the silk dress she wore when Romans captured her family's compound 6 weeks ago. The silk is filthy now, stained with things she tries not to think about. But the guards have kept her in this dress deliberately. The contrast matters. Silk and chains, nobility and captivity, what she was and what she has become. She can hear footsteps approaching through the underground corridors, multiple sets, heavy boots on stone, men's voices discussing something in Latin that she only partially understands. The tone is casual. They are not discussing anything important, just routine business. Standard procedures for a normal day at the Colosseum. One of the guards stops outside her cell. The key turns in the lock. The door opens. 3 men enter. One wears the armor of an arena official. The other 2 are dressed in the leather and bronze of gladiators who have just fought. One of them has blood on his shoulder, fresh from whatever contest he just won. The official holds a wax tablet. He reads from it in the monotone of someone performing administrative tasks. Livia of Dacia, captive number 417, category 3 prisoner, assigned under the provision of Lex Ptorum to the gladiator Gas Valerius Maximus as reward for victory in the afternoon contests. He makes a mark on the tablet. The transaction is recorded. Everything in Rome is recorded. The bureaucracy of empire extends even to this underground chamber where a 19-year-old woman sits chained and terrified. The gladiator Gas Valerius Maximus steps forward, around 30 years old, heavily scarred, a survivor of the arena and valuable property. His exhausted eyes reveal a man shaped by Rome's brutal entertainment system. When the official leaves and the door locks, only Livia and the gladiator remain inside a cell built for a very specific purpose. Iron rings are fixed into the walls, a wooden bench sits with deliberate placement, and drainage channels cut across the stone floor. This room has been used many times, and its architecture makes its function unmistakable. What makes this moment extraordinary is that what happened next was documented in sources Rome tried to suppress. The events in these chambers beneath the Colosseum were not random violence, they were systematic policy, part of a reward structure that turned female prisoners into components of Rome's entertainment machinery. When gladiators like Gas Valerius Maximus acted outside expected behavior, the true nature of this system appeared in ways official records could not conceal. Tonight, you will uncover what Rome built beneath its greatest amphitheater, infrastructure designed to process captive women through stages of humiliation, legal frameworks that made exploitation official policy, and reward systems that granted victorious gladiators ownership of female prisoners. Senate debates emerged when these practices became too visible, and the stories of a few women survived in sources once dismissed as exaggeration. Archaeological evidence discovered in recent decades confirms their reality. This was not fantasy, it was documented Roman practice, multiple independent accounts, physical evidence beneath the Colosseum, and detailed legal codes verify the system's existence. The horror lies not in chaos but in order, not in the collapse of civilization but in civilization functioning exactly as intended. Stay until the end, because what follows will challenge everything you believe about Rome. Now let us return to the cell beneath the Colosseum and understand how Livia came to be chained there, and why Rome built such elaborate infrastructure for spectacles that combined engineering brilliance with systematic cruelty. Their value derived from different functions. Labor was one consideration, domestic service was another, but there was a third category that official sources describe with careful euphemisms and that modern historians have only recently begun examining honestly. The category was political humiliation rendered sexual, the systematic use of captured women to demonstrate not just military victory but the complete destruction of enemy societies, what Roman sources called the demonstration of conquest through the ultimate subjugation of enemy populations. This was policy, it appeared in Senate debates, it was codified in law, it was administered through official channels, it was not the random violence of individual soldiers during battle, but the systematic exploitation of captive populations through institutional mechanisms that the empire constructed and maintained. The practice operated under various names in different periods: Victoria Carnales, Premium Sanguinis, Ius Victoria. The terminology varied, but the essential practice remained consistent. Victoria's gladiators received rewards for their service. One category of reward was access to female prisoners held in the underground chambers beneath the arena. This created a self-reinforcing system. Gladiators fought more viciously for greater rewards. Prisoners provided entertainment value through their presence. The crowd witnessed both the combat and its aftermath, knowing what awaited the women displayed in chains around the arena during victory celebrations. The entire mechanism served to demonstrate Roman power through every possible avenue. The Dian campaigns of the 70s provided the historical context for Libya's captivity. The Emperor of Vespasian was consolidating power after the chaos of the Year of Four Emperors. He needed military victories to legitimize his rule. The Dian territories along the Danube offered opportunities for conquest that would both secure borders and provide the captives needed for triumphant games in Rome. The campaigns were brutal. Roman legions burned villages, they destroyed agricultural infrastructure, they captured elite families specifically to display them in triumph. The goal was not just military victory, but the complete psychological defeat of populations that might otherwise organize future resistance. Livia's family was targeted deliberately. Her father had negotiated with Rome during earlier diplomatic contacts. He spoke Latin, he understood Roman politics, he represented the educated Dian elite that could potentially lead organized opposition. Capturing his family served strategic purposes beyond simple revenge. It demonstrated that even those who tried to work within Roman systems would be destroyed if Rome chose to expand into their territories. The capture itself was documented in official dispatches. A cohort commander named Marcus Antonius Primus sent reports to Rome describing the seizure of noble families during the Dian campaign. His letters preserved in collections of military correspondence mention specific captives by name. Livia appears in one dispatch as daughter of the Dian nobleman Debilis, age approximately 18, suitable for display in triumph. She was property before she ever reached Rome. The dispatch did not describe her as a person, but as an asset with specific use value. The classification determined everything that followed. To understand what happened to Livia, you must first grasp the political calculations that Roman leadership made when deciding how to display and dispose of captured populations. The games were never merely entertainment, they were state propaganda operating on multiple levels simultaneously. Religious festival, political theater, demonstration of imperial power, tool for managing urban populations, revenue generator through associated gambling and commerce. Every aspect served deliberate purposes. The treatment of prisoners was particularly calculated. Rome did not simply execute enemies. Rome transformed enemy defeat into spectacle that reinforced specific political messages.